we're live in Facebook and YouTube. Hello everybody, I'm Jim Munchback, and this is another episode of Money Study Group, the Zoom meeting, the weekly Zoom meeting. So as we get everybody logged in, we'll just look for any comments or questions you might have. Now's a good time to ask if you have any questions. I'll try to get my screen set up. Chat. I have way too many things going on my screen. If you could see my screen, you'd know. Okay, yes, thank you for signing in. That's awesome. So today we're going to talk about credit and consumerism, and I'm going to tell you some stories. I'm going to introduce you to Billy and Sally, tell you some stories about credit and how to manage credit. So as we wait for students to join us, we'll wait until about 5 minutes after 10 a.m. to really get started here, but I want to apologize for those of you who are here on time, ready to go. Just like last week. Last week I had some problems with my sound. I still never figured out. I think I figured it out, but I wasn't positive what happened. I got a new computer, a new iMac. I don't know if you guys are into Mac computers, but the iMac it's different. It's got an M1 chip, supposed to be super fast. So anyway, I ordered one, got it all set up. I actually set it up here at the office and migrated my system to the new computer, and then realized I didn't have enough. I wasn't thrilled with a few of the selections, so I sent it back to Apple, and the new replacement should be here today. So since we're talking about personal finance, let me just tell you a little story about that purchase. So iMac, the one I'm using right now, that's a big Mac, 27-inch iMac computer, but it's about 5 years old, which is fine, it's okay, but the M1 chip is supposed to process things so much faster. So I got a chance to play with it, and it really does. It has a super quiet fan, so it should make it easier for me to create content as I get ready to update this course and new courses that I'll be presenting. So anyway, that's my story. Bought a new Mac. Get the new Mac today though, and what I wanted to share is, so the iMac that I got, I made a mistake and I got the tiny little mini keyboard. It was tiny. It's a disaster for my big hands. So I took it back to the store to get it swapped out, and they told me you can't do that on an iMac now. They sell the whole package together. Can you imagine needing a new keyboard and you have to return the entire package? Turned out to be a good thing for me though, because I neglected to use my educator discount to purchase, and they were making an offer. I got an email. They said they'd send you a free pair of AirPods if you buy a computer for education. Well, my computers are all for education, so I took advantage of that. I was able to upgrade the hard drive, upgrade the RAM, the memory, and get a free pair of AirPods. And did I say upgrade the hard drive? I doubled the hard drive, so I got 2 terabytes. 2 terabytes is not terribly huge. This one has 3 terabytes. Anyway, I did all that for a lower price. I just had to wait to have it sent out. So anyway, that's my story. I will be setting up a new iMac this weekend, and I created a studio in my house, so that's where I'll be using that one. Okay, it is now 10:05. It's 10:05. Let's get started. So I want to jump into kind of a story. When I first started teaching this course, and by the way, before I jump right in, I didn't see any questions in the chat, so I can see that you can hear me and you're here. Thank you all for posting the time that you got here. If you have questions, always feel free to post them in the chat, and I will look at the chat later, but I'm going to try not to look at the chat while we get into today's lesson. So, as I told you last week, this week I will be assigning your assignment in Blackboard, and you will see as we go over today that we're combining 2 weeks, so 2 assignments into 1 assignment. And this is the right week, the right 2 weeks actually, to combine assignments because they go really hand in glove. And you'll see how that works as we move forward today in reviewing your double assignment in culture of consumerism and credit crush. So in this assignment, I'm going to set the table by telling you a story about a couple of stories. I want to tell you the story about Billy and Sally and how I met them. There's a picture of Billy and Sally, and you'll see those nice folks in your assignment. So when I started teaching this course, it was some time ago, over a decade ago. I was pretty excited about teaching this course, and I told you the story about my friend Sam and my little group of Christian friends who we would gather and have coffee, and we would share what was going on in each other's lives. And I shared my kind of anxiety about teaching personal finance at the college level, and they all encouraged me to help me realize and remember and recall that I had a lot of letters after my name and a lot of experience, and that my knowledge level was sufficient to be able to teach college students the skill of managing money. And that was really my goal. I wanted to transfer the skills that I know are necessary to become good at managing money. And so my friend Sam, though, he's passed since that meeting, but good friend. He was like the leader of our little group. He wore a little engineer ring. He was an engineer at ExxonMobil, chemical engineer. But Sam was just very clear, very direct, that the one thing that I needed to teach was the law of spending and saving. Spend less than you earn and save more for what matters most. That set up the 3 laws of personal finance, which became the foundation for this course. But during that time, that same week, in fact, I was just down the street from Einstein's where we were having coffee with Sam, and I needed to get some work done on my Lexus. And so I pulled into a Firestone there to get the transmission oil changed in my Lexus. And that's when I met Billy and Sally. Sally was the service manager at the Firestone, and Billy was there with his F-150 pickup truck that he bought from his uncle. And I don't know if you guys are into cars, but F-150 is like the biggest, most successful car story in U.S. history. I mean, the Mustang, that's another Ford product. It was a very big success story for Ford. And if you're into cars and the history of cars, it's notable, I think, that the F-150 to this day certainly recently, up to maybe recently, the F-150 is the #1 selling vehicle in the world. It's a well-built truck. I used to be a master mechanic, and I just really always appreciated the way that Ford built their trucks. And so Billy had a truck that I admired, so we got to know each other as we were standing there in line waiting for Sally to help us, and Billy was there to purchase some tires. Now, I don't know if you guys have any idea what it costs to purchase tires, but Billy came in with a coupon to get some tires that were on sale, and so he had this fantastic, really well-built pickup truck that he got for a good deal from his uncle. Billy told me a little bit about himself. He was living at home with his parents, and he had this job at Marathon, which was a place that I had access to because I owned some vending machines, and so we had a lot in common. And I was just curious because I was going to be teaching personal finance. I was just curious how this young man was thinking about his purchase. And then Sally shows up, and Sally begins to talk to Billy about what he is there for. So before I go any further, I just want to ask you, any guys out there or ladies, anybody, do you know, and if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, post the comment now, pause the video, and post the answer to this question. How much do you think it costs to purchase 4 tires for a Ford F-150? Any idea? Anybody got any idea? Chat it in now for an extra 1,000 points. I know I got your attention now. An extra free 1,000 points. These won't actually be in Blackboard. They'll just be over here on this pad. I'll give you 1,000 free points. So Harsh, that's pretty close. Alonda, 800. Harsh, you said 500. I think that's a little low. That'd be a really good price. 225 is way too low. 750 is pretty good. So those are some good guesses. 1,000. Mercy, are you serious? $95? I'm thinking, okay, $850. Good. I'm glad you fixed that. So those are all pretty good numbers, and I do appreciate all of you participating. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube and you're not able to watch this live in Zoom, don't forget, post your guess before I tell you. So the bottom line is, back then, remember that was like over 10 years ago, so tires have probably gone up significantly, but the purchase price of tires for a pickup truck will be more than for like my Lexus or a Toyota. They're bigger, there's more rubber. So anyway, Billy was there with a coupon to purchase these tires, and he was going to get a good deal. But then Sally showed up, and she showed him, first of all, Sally did something that I think we really need to recognize as we talk about consumerism and credit, because Sally's role was a professional salesperson. Has anybody ever met a professional salesperson? Have you ever had any interaction with a professional sales professional? Well, Sally was like the best I've ever seen. She was professional. She was very engaging. Of course, she was young and attractive, and Billy happened to notice that as well as I did, that she was attractive. And so one of the things that I thought was interesting is that Sally said to Billy, you know, that is a cool truck you have there, Billy. You got a good truck. That's like, she knew that it was a well-built truck, and she kind of affirmed Billy. So think about the job, the role of a professional salesperson. Sally was filling that role very well, and I was just kind of standing back and watching, because I've been a sales professional all my life. I can't help but selling, always selling something, not even thinking about it. I'm trying to sell you right now on the idea of engaging in financial planning and developing some skills around managing money, and that's what this story's about. And I was fascinated as I watched Sally kind of work Billy, and she pointed out that that truck was cool. It was a great truck, and you know, obviously it needed some tires, but then she wanted Billy to recognize that these tires over here, the ones that are not on sale, they have, you know, raised white letter, they were different profile, and they would actually transform that truck. And she said, Billy, you would look, not the truck would look, but you would look like a rock star with those tires on your truck. So that's how she got it going. And Billy, of course, perked right up to that, and he was very open to the idea of considering this upgrade to the next level of his purchase. So that is the role of a professional salesperson, to help you recognize how much better a person you will be if you go ahead and make this purchase. It's going to change who you are and how you're perceived. You guys get what I'm saying? It was fascinating to watch. And remember, here I was thinking about this new opportunity that I had in my life to teach this class, and I'm watching this unfold, and it was fun to watch. And then, of course, with those new tires, anybody know what's next? Anybody out there have any idea what comes after the nice tires, the upgraded tires with the raised white letters? Anybody got an idea? Jacob, Alonda. Oh, tire rotation. That's a good one. But that's more maintenance. That's not going to change your life or transform your perception in the world, a tire rotation. But it was a good guess. So, new rims. Yeah, and Harsh says suspension. So a little raise the thing up a little bit so the profile is bigger. And that was part of the package that Sally ultimately presented to Billy. And so, yeah, the rims were a huge part of it, because obviously those stock manufacturer rims with these new cool tires wouldn't cut it. So now we're talking about raising the suspension, putting on those awesome new tires with those flashy new rims. And then in addition to that, Sally was smart enough to recognize that Billy should invest in a lifetime alignment. So the alignment, if you don't know, and I used to be a master mechanic, so I did alignments. That's how I paid for college, doing suspension work and alignments. So think of an alignment. Your wheels, if you've ever seen a shopping cart, like the wheels they have caster, positive caster. So they're like this. And when they go down the road, or when you push a shopping cart fast, they wobble, because that's what happens when you have very positive casters. You get a vibration. So to make sure you don't get a vibration, which will destroy your new tires, you have to set those angles to be correct. And here's camber. This is camber. So when your tires are going down the road, if the camber is out or in, this is out, it'll wear out the tires. So that makes sense, right? And then the third angle is toe. So that's how far the tires at the front are pointed in or pointed out. And either one of those, if they're out of spec, will just destroy your tires. So you have three angles. And Sally recognized and helped Billy understand that he needed to invest in this preventive maintenance. So he said, yeah. And I'm standing there watching thinking, this girl, I would love to hire Sally. She's awesome. And she's so good at her job. And because I was a master mechanic, I was kind of just really impressed with the way she handled everything with Billy. And then, of course, after we talked later, I found out that Billy wasn't able to get that alignment without making some repairs. And so it turns out that Billy told me about his whole experience. And I want to just ask you, if you had to guess, for Billy, who came in to spend about $600 on tires with taxes and balance and warranty and rotation and disposal and all of that, the total cost would have been about $600 for the tires that were on sale that would fit his truck. But instead, he met Sally. Billy meets Sally. Sally changes Billy's life with this amazing investment. And so how much money do you think Billy ended up spending on his Ford F-150 pickup truck? Any guesses? 2.5K. Harsh, did you watch the video? So every semester when I tell this story, I always ask for guesses, and then I end up saying, okay, it was this amount. And 2.5K was pretty close. 3,000, Fernanda, that's pretty close too. So yeah, instead of 600, 700, it was more like $2,500. Now, my question is, at this point, now that we've kind of set the table with this whole idea of why Billy went from making a decision to invest in some new tires, which he needed at a discounted price because they were on sale, which is a really smart move. I mean, Billy was living at home. He was making really good money. He graduated from San Jac with a 2-year degree. He's making good money working at the plant, and he's trying to be smart. That's what we were talking about that, and he wanted to be smart. And then he met Sally. And I'm not saying it wasn't smart. I mean, it absolutely changed the look of that truck, which was really good for Billy's self-esteem. But so we set the table on how that happened. And I want to pause for a minute and make you think and give you a chance to think. and reflect on all of the ways that that happens for you and me. I mean, I just told you the story about my iMac computer, and it's there's a lot of ways we can justify the things that we buy that we may not really need and sometimes can't afford. And in Billy's case, he could afford what he was buying. But before we get into how he paid for it and how he structured that, I want to just ask you to reflect on the idea of going from an expense that was very reasonable and frugal and wise, really, because that truck would have gone forever on those, new tires, instead of all of the changes that he invested in for the purpose of, what was his purpose for making that decision? Just what do you think triggered Billy to make that decision to upgrade and to go from a very reasonable cost to a much higher cost? What motivated him to do that? What motivated him to do that? And the real question is, what motivates you to make certain purchases that you may not need and may not be able to really afford? Because that's going to set the table for the rest of the work that you do this week and this assignment. So just want you to be thinking about what motivated Billy. Somebody answer that question. And again, I'm giving away thousands of free points here on this pad of paper that will never end up in Blackboard, but still, they're to save money in the future. So Alonda, tell me more about that. Why would that save Billy money in the future? I think what you're talking about is the fact that he did the alignment and he made the repairs necessary so that he could do the alignment. But the whole package is what I'm talking about. Knowledge about the topic, Matthew, I'm not sure what you mean about knowledge about the topic. But yeah, you basically nailed it, Matthew, in your second one, the self-esteem appeal. So that's what motivated Billy. That's what Sally used to motivate Billy, which is a super common technique in the profession of selling, is to appeal to someone's self-esteem or their security or their fear. So you're always appealing to an emotion, to something inside that most people don't even know is creating this impetus to act, to make this decision. But Sally, the professional that she was, she did that perfectly well. His end goal was to make the truck look like that in the future. But his goal there, that I think it seemed to me that the goal that Sally sold him was to look good. And so to me, what I've thought for many years, and again, I never get like the 5-star chili rating on ratemyprofessors.com. I've never been that guy. Billy and Sally, these are good looking young people. So, but to look good and to not look bad, it's a relative thing, I know, but still, it's like one of the biggest motivators we have in life. And when it comes to managing your money, one of the most expensive things you can do is develop your financial habits around the idea of looking good and not looking bad. And that's what Sally appealed to. And that's what prompted Billy to make his decision to invest in those rims and tires and to jack up his truck. It wasn't a utility thing. It didn't give him better value. It didn't make him a better person. He probably got less good gas mileage. He had more maintenance because of the truck. There was a lot of expense to raise it and to maintain it. And those tires were not going to give him better gas mileage than his other tires. So anyway, I just want you to think about that. What motivates you to make decisions like that? So that's where we were. Billy had made this decision and now he owned it. So what I'm going to ask you to do this week is I'm going to ask you to make some decisions. I'm going to ask you to put yourself into the future. Pretend that you've graduated. You're like Billy. By the way, Billy and Sally ended up getting together, and I kind of kept up with Billy and his story, and what happened was they started to date, and then they moved in together, and then they started to party and have a good time, and they missed a few payments. Billy missed a few payments, and how do you think Sally helped Billy afford to make this purchase? Because that's part of today's lesson too. It's a really big part of today's lesson and the credit crush segment. So this is two lessons combined into one. And the first one is that we live in a culture of consumerism, and that we all are faced with these driving motivators to spend money many times on things that we don't need, and sometimes things we can't afford, to impress people that we really don't even know. And so that lifestyle of consumerism, it's a very, very expensive way to live, and it's a very detrimental way to manage your money. So if you want to develop the skills to manage money in a more effective way, in a more efficient way, in a more productive way, you have to be able to process what's causing you emotionally to spend money or to not save money. And so those are very important parts and pieces and elements of the skill of managing money. That's the first half, the first part of this two-part lesson, is the culture of consumerism that we live in. The second part is the credit crush. How do you fix what you, when you have credit, what are some strategies? What are some ways that you can be smart? Some skills that you can use to eliminate that debt as quickly as possible. And that's what we're going to talk about. But I want to go back to the story, because in every sale like this, there's a something that we all face, and you will face many times, and that is, how are you going to pay for it? So you've bought into the idea that you like this. There's a really easy solution now to how are you going to buy it. So what do you think Sally's job was to help Billy actually make this decision to go ahead and go from, here's the money, I brought the money in to pay for these tires, they're on sale, but now it's $2,500. I didn't bring $2,500. So what do you think she offered? What do you think Sally had at Yeah, Matthew, that's right. You got it, Harsh. So if you're not in our Zoom meeting, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, go ahead and post, what do you think Sally offered to help Billy decide to make this purchase? And obviously it was credit. That's the answer, but help me unpack that a little bit. What does that look like? What kind of credit? What does that package look like for Billy? What did Sally offer? What did Firestone have to help Billy make this choice to upgrade the tires, the rims, all of the suspension work, the alignment, and the ball joints that he had to have replaced so that the alignment would hold? All of that was part of the $2,500 bill. And so to pay for that, yes, they offered credit. But what did that credit look like? So Harsh says a monthly payment. I'm going to say yes, that's right, but a very low monthly payment was part of it. So yes, a very low. Fernanda says maybe a couple of months without interest. Yes, not just a couple, 6 months. Sally said, same as cash, which means you go ahead and buy these tires now, Billy, and you keep saving your money. And as long as you pay this balance off within 6 months, you have no interest. No interest. So 6 months, not a couple, but 6 months, same as cash. Low monthly payment. What else? There's a couple other things, at least one other thing we need to identify. So we can go with that, a low monthly payment and 6 months no interest. And remember, I told you Sally and Billy got together, they did some partying, they moved in together, they spent a lot of money, and Billy's goal, what he believed he would do, is save the money. Within 6 months he would have been able to do that, no problem, living at home, making good money at Marathon. But he didn't do that. because he started having some fun and living his life, and he moved in with Sally, and they started to do a lot of fun things, some travel, and they bought some furniture, and the list goes on. And instead of paying off his debt, he actually accumulated more debt, which we're going to see in Billy's plan here in just a minute. But so she offered a low monthly payment, nothing down. That was another big part of it. You don't have to pay anything down. So Billy said, that sounds great. And it's raining outside. I don't know if it's raining where you are, but you can see it's raining. I'm glad I didn't ride my motorcycle today. So low monthly payment, no down payment, 6 months, same as cash. Too good to be true, right? That's how they get you. And Billy turned out to be the perfect client for credit, the perfect credit customer. And credit it's a product, it's not a privilege, which is what it felt like for Billy when he got to upgrade all this stuff in his truck. But Billy bought into it. So what I'm going to ask you to do before I jump into Billy's plan, and you'll see this when you see the assignment in Blackboard, but I want you to go out and spend some money. This is pretend money. I want you to pretend that you've graduated and you're in that job, your dream job. You're going to have to do a little research to figure out what is your income going to be if you land that dream job. What is your income going to be if you get the job that you really want to get after you graduate, having studied what you're studying? So if you're studying business and you want to, let's say you want to be an accountant, and you have to do a little research to figure out what are you going to get paid, what is the salary range for that position if you get the job that you really want. It's really raining. So that's what your homework is going to be, is to start with, fast forward the clock, pretend you graduated and now you're making this amount of money, and your budget and your financial plan is going to be based on this new income level. So that's what I want you to start to do, and that's what you're going to do in your financial planning portal starting this week. So in addition to that, I want you to do 3 things. 1, I want you to go spend some money on a credit card. And I want you to tell me, how much interest are you going to spend on your credit card? What's the balance going to be? What's your monthly payment going to be? And I'll show you how that works in Billy's plan in just a minute. Number 2, I want you to do a little research and figure out what kind of house will you choose to buy. Assume that you're going to buy a house, that you're not going to rent, because you know that you'll build equity, and over time that will be an asset that will help you build wealth. That's a smart thing to do typically, and let's just pretend that we're all in the same boat and that you will buy a house. So you have to do a little shopping, you have to do a little research, you have to figure out, what is this house going to cost, and what does the mortgage look like on this house? And that's all part of your financial planning portal. There's a space for each of those elements, and as you collaborate with one another in GroupMe, it should be no problem. And plus, Billy's plan will help you see that as well, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So number 3, I want you to go out and buy your dream car. So Billy did that. He didn't keep his Ford pickup for long. He upgraded not long after that. So let's jump into Billy's plan, and I'll show you what his plan looks like with respect to those 3 things that you are going to do in your homework assignment. The credit card spending spree, the home purchase based on your salary and what you can afford in the area that you want to live in, in relation to where you're planning on working. So you have to use your imagination, do some research, and make some just good, reasonable assumptions about your plan in the future after you graduate, okay? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. If that's not clear, post your question now on Facebook, YouTube, or if you're in the Zoom meeting. I'm looking at that chat now. So, hello. If you're with us and you have a question, post it in the chat. So let's take a look at Billy's. This is the assignment, by the way, that you'll see in Blackboard. So you're going to make all these assumptions. You're going to make these 3 big purchases for this week in your planning portal. You're going to buy your house, you're going to spend some money on a credit card, and you're going to buy your dream car. So I just wanted you to see Billy's dream car. This is the car that Billy absolutely had to have because Billy is a hunter. He likes to hunt and fish, and this was the tool. It was a tool, kind of like my iMac computer. It was a tool. It was a necessity for Billy. Billy's not actually a professional hunting guide. He's actually just, he loves to do it. And if you buy the beer, he'll take you hunting. He loves to hunt, and this is the machine that he uses to hunt. So he's got the dogs, and he's got the ammo, he's got the guns, and he has got the toy truck. Now this truck has got a different kind of loan on it. It's not the same type of loan you would normally get on a car because it was all customized. So he had to make a deal. He had to buy the F-250, Ford F-250, and then he had to take it and have it customized. And so the whole package, we'll see in a minute what that looks like. And then of course Billy and Sally decided to buy their home because the prices just kept going up, and so they thought it made sense to go ahead and invest in a house, which they did. And I think that was probably smart. And that is their house. I think it's a very reasonable house. They have a couple kids now. And anyway, that's their house. What house will you purchase? So then the credit card. Now here's what I want you to think about. Here's what I want you to see. There's an image on the screen right now that shows Billy's Ford F-250 Toy Hauler Plus. Okay, and this is a $60-some thousand ride. Okay, this is the base truck is a Ford F-250, and if you buy one of those new, you can spend 60 grand easy. So I think Billy got it a couple years old, and then he had to pay for the customization, and so the total tag, price tag that he financed through some credit company was this amount. So you get to decide what you're going to buy. If you go buy a Tesla, you could have $100,000 easy, and then you have to figure out how you're going to finance it. Usually it'll be an auto loan, a car loan, but in this case Billy financed it through some credit company that is charging him, as you'll see in a minute, pretty high interest rate. And so this is the vehicle, and this is part of the Credit Crush assignment. So you're going to see when you go into your plan and Billy's plan, which we'll do in just a minute. In fact, let me just go over here into Billy's plan. This is Billy's plan. So this is what you're going to see when you go into your plan. So Billy's got a credit card, and that's what we see here. He's also got a loan. He's got a loan on his car, and he's got a loan for his mortgage. So you're going to have the same thing. So take a look at all of those fields. You're going to have to do the same thing in your financial planning portal. You're just going to enter the correct information for the mortgage that you pretend to go and use for your home, to purchase your home. So you'll put in your address, call it a mortgage. In this case, it says it's Billy, but it should be joint. So you may have, because Billy and Sally are married now, yours may be, maybe you're not married. You can pretend that you're going to get married. I couldn't wait to get married in college. That was my goal in college, to meet a beautiful woman and get married, and I did that. I'm still married to her. So anyway, this is the mortgage. This is the data card for Billy's mortgage. You will have a data card for your mortgage, and your job this week is to fill that out and to complete it so that you have a loan term, an interest rate, a monthly payment, a balance, all of that. Okay, so then we go back to the toy hauler. Same thing, it's a car loan. Look at that, there's a loan type. In this case, we're calling it a car loan. It's not really a car loan, it's really something else. Like, what is it? It's well, it's another loan, but I'm going to keep it car loan because it is a car. But it was, like I said, through a credit company. And the minimum payment, $255 on a $63,000 vehicle, which is another reason Billy did this loan, because it had a very low monthly payment. Is that a good thing? Oh, but it's easy. It's kind of like, the way I look at it is, and I was a C student in college, so don't be offended if you're, well, what I'm about to describe. If you're one of those students who always waits until the assignment is due and you get it turned in just before it's due. That's what a lot of students do. That's what I did in college. And so that's how a lot of people manage money. They pay the minimum amount possible, and because of that, they end up not being A students. Their money management skills are very weak because they apply the same strategy of just doing everything at the last minute and not looking for ways to be smarter and stay ahead of the game and earn extra points. Just like you earn extra points in this course by turning your assignments in early, when it comes to managing money, you earn extra points when you pay attention to what's possible if you use a different strategy instead of the strategy that the credit company would love for you to use. Billy, now you're going to see, he's using the strategy that the credit card companies want him to use. They make it super easy for him to use their strategies because their strategies, as you'll see in a minute, work really, really well for them. Okay, so you get to make your decision and you get to build your plan so that you can see how these strategies work with your money. That's the whole point of the Credit Crush assignment, is to show you the cost of credit and the benefits of using better strategies, smarter strategies that produce better results. And I'm going to show you that now. So we've got 3 loans here. We've got a home mortgage, we've got the Toy Hauler Plus, and then we got a credit card. And by the way, that credit card, which is $22,000, that still includes some of the balance that Billy had when he upgraded the tires on his F-150. So think about that. Don't think about it. Let me just show you. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go to Dashboard. When you go to Dashboard, you see you've got balance sheet, liquidity, budget, debt. So we'll stop there at debt, because that's really the point of this week's lesson. Credit crush. How are we going to crush this credit? So what we have here is we've got 3 tabs: strategy, payment, and details. That's what we want to focus on. That's what I want you to focus on. Once you've built your data cards to reflect these items that you've spent money on, I want you to come here and play with these strategies, just like I'm going to do right now as we wrap up today's lesson. So you see here there's a drop down. It's got the mortgage, it's got the toy hauler, it's got the credit card. So you can play with each of those and you can see the year, the beginning balance, the interest, the payment, and the ending balance. And I used to do this in class on the whiteboard, and we would just take Billy's loan for the tires and we would unpack that so that you could see the actual cost of credit when you take a very low minimum monthly payment and nothing down, and 6 months same as cash, because what happens is if you don't pay that off in 6 months, they charge you the interest for all of the 6 months, and that gets added to your balance, which is exactly what happened to Billy. So now you see this balance. This is the mortgage. Let's just go to the credit card real quick, and I want you to notice something. So this is the details. You'll see this for yourself. You have the annual and the monthly. So let's just go on monthly just so you can see how this works, because this is really what you're looking for. So you've got a balance, right? Every credit card, every credit account has a balance, and then you have interest, which gets added to the balance, and then you have a payment, which gets subtracted from the balance. But once you add the interest and you make the payment, now your balance goes from $22,345, that number right there, to $23,463. Now I want you just to look at those two numbers and think about it, because this is really the whole point of Credit Crush, is to recognize that when you do, you turn your assignment in on time, you pay your credit card minimum. I mean, you're all good. Your credit score's good. Everything's good. but it's costing you a lot. I mean, it's actually going, the balance, does the balance go up or down? What do you think? What do you see? Are you there? Are you watching? Do you see this? Because when I figured this out, and I was kind of buried in debt, and my wife made me look at this, because I didn't want to look at this when I was young, and we got married, and we started putting things on credit, and it was like she was just livid because I kept buying things. I still do that today. I buy stuff. It's retail therapy. I like buying stuff. What about you? You like buying stuff? So when you buy stuff on credit, this is what it looks like. And she showed that to me when I was younger, like your age. And it made me really mad because I couldn't believe that it was legal to do that. But it is legal, and this is how it works. So the balance keeps going up. These are monthly. We jump into annual, and you can see a quicker increase in that balance over the years because Billy's paying the minimum, and the minimum doesn't come close to the interest. So the credit card company just loves customers like Billy. So that's the credit card. We got the same thing with the car, same thing with the house. Now, interestingly, on the house, Billy and Sally want to pay their mortgage off early, so they're paying extra. So let's look at the payments. So this is the payment screen. You'll have this too. It shows how much are the current payments, and you'll see that the current payment and the proposed payment are the same because we haven't changed anything in your plan. You haven't made any changes. Billy hasn't made any changes. So debt management, the strategy is we go to the action items here. That's what you're going to do. Go to the action items. See that little button? And when you go to the action, see right now it says same priority for all debt. That's not really a strategy. That's like turning your assignment in on time at the last minute. It's like paying the minimum on your credit card. But in this case, again, Billy and Sally have, you see their minimum payment for the mortgage is $1,295. But for some reason, they want to pay their mortgage off early, so they're paying $1,500. But look at the interest rates. Now just think about that for a minute. If you were their financial advisor, if you were giving Billy and Sally advice about their financial plan, would you see anything wrong with this strategy that they take because they want to pay off that biggest loan, and it's their house, and they feel good about having a house that they're investing in that's becoming an asset, but it's got a 4.5%. So yeah, Fernanda, the account with the highest interest should be paid off first. I think that makes sense. I think that doesn't take much thinking and paying attention. And so hopefully for Billy and Sally, if you're watching this, I created a little plan for you. And if you can see this, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, it's no different for you. If you don't have a plan and you can't see the big picture, you can't see how these moving parts fit together, this is really what a financial plan is a way for you to see the big picture and how everything fits together. In this case, yeah, that's not really smart. So Harsh says pay the 18% off first. So here it's super simple for us to go to the strategy. And right now, nothing's been changed in the strategy, but let's go down to the action item, and let's say that we pay the 18% off first. Let's do this. Let's just say we pay the highest to the lowest interest rate. That's like one change that's going to give us a change for all of our debt here. So let's just see what happens, Harsh. That's probably what's this smart computer is going to agree with you, I think. Just let's see. Don't forget to hit the little refresh button. You have to hit the little refresh button. And then look at that total savings of $374,202,457 and debt free. It says 0 months sooner. That's hard for me to imagine. Let's go look at the details. So what about the payment? Let's see what the payment is. So The only change that it made right now, Harsh, is the one you suggested. So it says $410 is going to the credit card. That's what's happening. Instead of 205, this very smart computer system says it would be smarter for you to go back to paying the minimum payment on the mortgage. Don't pay extra on the mortgage, pay extra on the credit card. See how that works? Okay, so let's go back to strategy and play with a couple other things. This is what I want you to do. I want you to play around. I want you to play around with this and see what comes out on your plan to be like, hey, that's the money plan right there. So what I would say is, let's say that Billy can't, and so remember now, they're paying extra on their 18% interest, right? So what were they doing before? If we just go back, I want to show you something. So I'm going to say same priority for all debt. Hit refresh, and I just want to show you this in terms of a strategy. I want you to think about this for a second. So, oh, come on, refresh. Oh, look at that. I've got the extra in there, so I have to hit refresh again. So now it should be back to, yeah, that's where we started. But remember, in this payment, they're paying $1,500 on the mortgage instead of $1,295. So they're actually paying like $300, $205 more than they actually have to pay. So when we go to strategy, if we do that same thing, we say highest to lowest, but then we can put $200 in here. 205. Let's put 205, because that means they're still paying the same amount monthly that they were before. So when we hit refresh, let's see what happens. So now, just with $200 more a month and changing which one they pay, just $200 more a month, they're going to save $387,000 and pay their debt off 405 months sooner. Wow. Strategies, smarter strategies, produce significantly better results. And if you're not paying attention to your financial life and all the pieces, little things can make huge difference in the outcome, especially when you have as much time as most of you have to make little choices today that will turn into huge payoffs 20, 30 years from now. And this is one of them. Listen, I hooked up with I know that's not the way to say it, I forgot. I connected with a guy on LinkedIn, a business owner, reached out to me, wanted to do a financial plan. Whenever I do a financial plan, I always think, I always want to look for low-hanging fruit. This guy had over $2 million that he needed help managing. Funny thing was, his name was Sean. Sean owned a business, and he was getting ready to invest in another business. So he had $1 million in his checking account because he wanted to have cash for this purchase. Had think about that, had $1 million in his checking account, which he knew that was dumb. He knew that he wasn't getting any return and that he was missing out. So he hired me with $2 million. I told him I would help him. I'd be his advisor. I'd manage his assets, anything. So basically I was going to charge him $20,000 a year. Actually, I think we made an agreement that I was going to charge him $10,000 a year because he was going to invest half of his net worth into a business which I would not be managing. So long story short, this guy hires me and he's going to pay me 10 grand, and I'm going to manage $1 million for him, and I'm going to give him a financial plan. I'm going to help him do what I call a gap analysis. And my goal is always, when I do a financial plan for anyone, is I'm looking for the low-hanging fruit. So I just showed you some low-hanging fruit. If you were my client, I'd say, let's do this. In fact, I would probably say, let's go from $205 a month to, you tell me how much can you afford now that you saw how much it moves the needle on your plan. That's how I would help you if I was your advisor, helping you, coaching you through your financial plan. Well, in this case with Sean, $1 million in his checking account, and I get all of his financial stuff and I'm putting it into my system so that I can see the big picture and how all the pieces fit together. And guess what I found out? He had a lot of credit cards. He had a lot of balances on his credit card. He was paying in 1 year over $10,000 in credit card interest and fees. I'm like, dude, I couldn't wait until we met, because my first piece of advice to Sean was, look, I agreed to be your advisor. I'm charging you 10 grand a year, and I just paid for my fee bill. Okay, this one recommendation, just one recommendation before I invest anything for you, is going to save you 10 grand. Write a check today and pay off all your credit cards right now, and then set them up on auto pay so that they get paid every month, the full balance. That's the last thing you're going to do, the last time you're going to pay fees on your credit cards for the rest of your life, and you're going to thank me every time you get your credit card statement. And he did, and he was thankful, and he's like, yeah, I knew there was a few things that I was missing. That's really how financial planning works. There's a few things that we all miss, and so we all miss a few things, and it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a commitment to go into your financial plan and look at all the pieces. And I know you guys are just starting out, and this may not seem like it totally makes, it's somewhat abstract, and especially now that I'm asking you to assume that when you graduate, you're going to pretend you graduated, you're going to pretend you're earning this ideal job income, you're going to pretend that you've purchased a house and a car and went out on a spending spree with your credit card. That's all kind of abstract, and I get that. But I'm hoping that these stories and these case studies and this work that you're doing in your financial planning portal will plant some seeds for you, so that when you do get out there and you are responsible for managing money, you will have some context and some basis of, some experience seeing how it actually works, because I promise you it really works. But you have to do it. These little steps, you have to pay attention to the little things. So it is now 10:56 a.m. and I do have an 11 o'clock appointment, and I am going to wrap things up now. And I'm looking for any questions in the chat, in the Zoom, and I'm not seeing any. I'm assuming half of you have decided that there's something on Netflix you want to watch, or there's a friend on Facebook you want to connect with, and that's why you're not leaving me any love in the chat box, which makes me sad. So I'm looking and looking. No questions, no comments, lots of laughs. Thank you, Prof. I appreciate that, Mercy. Thank you very much. Lots of laughs back to you. Have a great week, and do your assignments, get them completed by Friday at 3 p.m. and I will give you extra points. So this will be a 100-point assignment. You'll get 20 extra points. That's a 20% upgrade for turning it in Friday by 3 p.m. By the way, if I graded your assignment and you didn't get your extra points, there's something weird going on with Blackboard. Bridget turned in her assignment on Thursday, and it was not in my queue on Friday, so she didn't get the extra points. She sent me an email, and I was happy to fix that. And so if I missed it for you, please send me an email, let Bridget know, and group me, whatever, and I will get that fixed. So have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Let me see. I'm going to go close out now, finish. You guys have a great week. See you later. I'm signing off now.